at this time. And Senator Sullivan, I understand you have another question, and after he goes, you're next. Okay, sure. Alex, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, Administrator Regan, I wanted to begin by thanking you for following through on President Biden's commitment to re-examine the Safe One rule. And I certainly appreciate your support of California's long-standing statutory authority to set greenhouse gas and zero-emission vehicle standards. California is and has been a national leader in the fight against climate change and eliminating toxic pollution from our transportation sector. So appreciate your early leadership and early collaboration. I also want to elevate yet another issue that I'm hoping is a good topic for collaboration in my state, and it begins with personal experience. You know, I know firsthand how outdated school buses expose children to harmful pollution. You know, I experienced it every day in the years when I was in junior high and elementary school, riding the school bus to and from in the San Fernando Valley, and that smell of diesel exhaust that would fill our lungs, not just mine, but every student that was on that bus, on the way to school, on the way from school. You know, I can still smell it today. But speaking of today, we know that there's 25 million children across the United States that are still exposed to the same diesel exhaust when they ride 500,000 predominantly diesel buses. And so we know it's not just an environmental impact, it's also a health impact, and it's an academic impact, because when kids have health issues, respiratory issues, because of the exhaust that they're breathing, it affects their ability to learn and their academic performance. So as we work to build back better and address climate change, I believe it's imperative that we work with school districts and supply the resources necessary to accelerate the deployment of zero-emission electric school buses to reduce the exposure of children to greenhouse gases while improving their public health, the environment, and their academic learning. So I'm proud that along with Senator Warnock, Representatives Cárdenas and Hayes, that we introduced the Clean Commute for Kids Act this last week. It seeks to build on an initial proposal in the infrastructure plan. It goes just a little bit bigger, goes just a little bit longer to accelerate this transition. So long way of asking Administrator Regan why you believe this plan to work with districts to accelerate the transition to zero-emission electric vehicles is good and leads us to a more equitable, sustainable transportation infrastructure.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your leadership. And I agree with you that electric school buses are critical for not only the health and well-being of our children, the precious cargo as they go to and from school, but to the point you just made, it really has an impact not only on them physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, if they cannot breathe while they're sitting in class attempting to learn. Another benefit of electric school buses, though, and I've had this conversation with rural electric cooperatives, is once that precious cargo is dropped off and those school buses are parked, their batteries become available to plug into the grid and begin to provide a level of reliability and certainty to that grid that they don't have to rely on dirtier fuels, fossil fuels, and the like. So there's a win-win there. There's a transportation piece to that. There's a public health and education piece to that. But then you dovetail back into infrastructure. And electric vehicles in general can help shore up our grid and grid reliability and capabilities. And I think electric vehicles are just so important for greenhouse gas emissions on the road, as well as those that are generated through electricity production.
So, thank you very much. I just have limited time left. I want to tee up at least one other issue that we've discussed in the committee prior, and that has to do with not just the need to invest in water infrastructure, but water affordability. We know that in California alone, 1 in 8 households in my home state are a little bit behind, or more than a little bit behind, on their water bill to the tune of $1 billion. And it's a much bigger number across the country, as you can imagine. So as we work towards investing in our infrastructure, can you just speak to the wisdom of a national water affordability program? People struggling to just keep up with water rates, let alone face higher bills to help fund some of the infrastructure investment that's needed?
It's critical that we focus on water affordability, and we're doing that through our 2022 budget request. We're also doing that throughout the president's request of $111 billion in the American Job Plan. Water affordability is critical, and the good news is EPA has experience here. We've got existing water financing programs that we've been operating for a number of years, where we've invested billions of dollars and created, hundreds of thousands of jobs. I believe that as we take a closer look at the resources that we're asking through the American Jobs Plan and our budget, that we'll be able to do a better job of dovetailing water affordability into our traditional grant and loan programs. And to the point you just made, there are so many water systems across this country that cannot afford a zero-interest loan because they're just in that bad a shape. And that's where the grant programs come in to help them begin to tread water a little bit better.
Thank you very much. Look forward to our continuing work together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.